and such. So thank you all so much for being with us for UNISMO's third truly global virtual seminar. Really quickly, it goes without saying that we are facing unprecedented times, that everyone is sort of trying to come through in the best possible way. And this organization has been founded and is working on behalf of micro, small, medium enterprises around the world. It's a truly global organization with around 20 board members in almost as many countries. So we are delighted to have you with us. We're honored. I want to thank my fellow board members, Kristen Egbeg and Menina in Morocco, for bringing us together with our fantastic panelists. On behalf of His Excellency Minister Al-Shola, we wish our very best to you and your families, and please stay safe and healthy, and wear masks and such. Inshallah, we will be through this together stronger than ever. So I would like to turn it over to, in the absence of His Excellency, turn it right over to Dr. Ibrahim Al-Mutrif, who's the head of the Business Council in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And so, Doctor, the floor is yours. Thank you so much, and good day.
Thank you very much, Adam. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman, hopefully he will be here in a few minutes. Distinguished panelists and participants, a very pleasant day to you all. Delighted to be here to share with you this unique seminar. I take the opportunity to thank the UNISMOs for honoring me with this invitation. The CMEs, ladies and gentlemen, that important economic pillar in the developing and developed world alike, a pillar that stimulates our economic growth and represent more than 95% of our businesses worldwide, and an essential driver of our national economies, is badly hurt by a pandemic, facing multiple challenges that requires a logical and cognitive policymaking. As you are aware, most of SMEs are quite small in size, that make them at risk when facing interruptions and interferences. Government lockdowns, for example, caused SMEs severe setbacks and dilemmas, creating a situation that some could not adapt to, while some halted their operations, aggravated by cash flow shortages and more. The world, ladies and gentlemen, is facing, as Adam said, unmatched crisis that began as a health-related problem, but developing gradually to a damaging economic crisis, one of the worst in history, some experts say. Almost everywhere, challenges facing SMEs today are of the same nature. Closures due to lockdown policies, having to change a business model and or strategy, lack of operational financial resources, as well as lack of business opportunities and low consumer demands. Lastly, having to provide a new product and or a service. Unless these issues are well addressed through substantial government policy interventions, a large number of SMEs are in danger of closure. In Saudi Arabia, where I come from, in addition to large monetary support packages, recent reforms included, but not limited to, reimbursing SMEs for paid government fees, creating SMEs in direct funding, raising the capital for the Saudi Industrial Fund, and then introducing a venture capital targeting SMEs. Saudi Arabia is working on plugging the SMEs into its economy, which will not only boost diversification, but provide opportunities for the SME sector itself. In line with the said reforms, the General SME Authority was created to upgrade the SME sector to an engine for economic growth. And with that opening, the opening of the Saudi parallel stock market, the CMEs are benefiting from receiving resources from external investors, which will magnify their growth. In regards to the Saudi SMEs' future outlook, I strongly feel that the policies implemented by the Saudi authorities since COVID-19 came about shall definitely assist the SMEs regain strength and positively bounce back. Mr. Khalid Al-Falih, Saudi Minister of Investment, lately said, due to their weak financial structure and fragile nature, the SMEs were the hardest hit by the pandemic, adding that the SMEs hold the lion's share of the initiatives launched by the Saudi authorities. Ladies and gentlemen, as governments are wrestling with policies to support the SMEs, I feel that what governments need to work on the most is the creation of suitable bouncing back strategies to support the SMEs not only survive, but become stronger in preparation for the post-pandemic stage and beyond. Meanwhile, strategists need to pay attention to the fact that the pandemic economic impacts do differ from one place to another based on the spread of the responses, speed of the responses in comparison to the spread of the pandemic. As such, strategists ought to carefully think about the implementation implications of their strategies when put in action. Saudi Arabia is making impressive progress in developing a more open and diversified economy at a time when the SMEs are gaining priority and attention as a major economic drive. One can see in trying to develop a path for SMEs that allows for progressing from a small-scale startups to a stock market listed entities. I think that the SMEs, ladies and gentlemen, will continue to be challenged at the global level. But with policies introduced and support provided, they will bounce back possibly sooner than many think. However, I personally feel the future outlook for 2022 seems more encouraging and favorable than that of this year, 2021. As an international relations specialist, I find it hard to accept that policymakers concerned with pandemic issues are working separately. It is advisable that they work together or in groups. We ought to create a unity of efforts and resources. I feel under the umbrella of a solid public-private partnership, we can globally reach the most suitable strategies to figure out answers to the emergencies we are in. Someone has to lead this collective collaboration. I understand the G20 called for a similar move during its 2020 Riyadh summit. Ladies and gentlemen, I find it very urgent to say that the world community is under a crucial test in global cooperation. If it fails, it means we are heading to an unparalleled economic and social disaster, resulting from our inability to work together. And lastly, it is with utmost pleasure that I congratulate the Kingdom of Bahrain for being selected as a permanent seat. It's also a great pleasure of mine to congratulate His Excellency Mr. Abdel Nabi Shala, whom I very much enjoy his weekly article in Al Bilad newspaper. I congratulate him for his selection as Bahrain's chairman. Delighted to have been part of this seminar and honored to be associated with the UNISMO. Thanks to Mr. Adam Johnson and Dr. Abdel Hassan Ad-Drairi, the two officials and our moderators today for their support during my preparation for participation. You all have a great day, great evening, great night. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Al-Mutrif, very much for that. I wanted to now introduce our next leader and panelist, who is Meg Jones, and she is currently, she's been kind of globetrotting a bit, but is currently now in Australia. And thank you again, Meg, for being up at 3:17 in the morning on Thursday with us. I have just a quick introduction on her. She was a director of the ITC, one of them in Geneva for some time, was also director of the United Nations Women. I'm gonna, and Meg, I have your slide on the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which I'm sending to Red so he can add it up when it's ready here. We also have, after Meg, we have two other leaders. We have Dean Van Leeuwen, who's joining us, who is, he almost needs no introduction. We'll give one, and then we have Dr. Mohammed El Fazazi in Morocco. So without further ado, thank you so much, Meg, for being with us, and for Dean and Mohammed. And we will, after Meg speaks, we'll go to a brief Q&A, and then Dean and Mohammed will enlighten us and inspire us and share their thoughts as well. So Meg, without further ado, please, the floor is yours, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Adam. And indeed, it's a very great pleasure to be with you all today. And as you have just pointed out, I have 20 years experience as Chief of Economic Empowerment at UN Women. And I set up the Gender and Women in Trade program at the International Trade Center, working my way towards director level, slightly below. Look, also, I'd like to commend Dr. Abdel Mutrif, who spoke prior to me just now, and thank him for his opening remarks. Saudi Arabia, as we all know, chaired the G20 last year. And it was actually in that summit, I think it was around paragraph 17, that the emphasis was placed on micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises in the context of the G20. And that's very important because that is one of the driving vehicles, of course, for economic advancement in our economies. And in that same statement, there was quite a chord attended to the advancements of women's economic empowerment as well. And given my background, this is the perspective that I approach the integration of MSMEs into the economy. As those of you who've joined this seminar know, this seminar is also very much taking a global perspective on what it is that we can do to foster the growth of MSMEs in the current climate. It's a difficult climate, as Dr. Abdel Mutrif pointed out. We are facing a slowdown due to COVID, the impact of COVID, particularly on trade. We're seeing that. I'm working at the moment, for example, in cut flowers. I have a contract now with Fairtrade, and it's Valentine's Day this Sunday, and we're compromised by the fact that with the reduction in passenger flights, for example, the freight prices have tripled for flowers moving around the world at the moment because of the impact of COVID. They're cutting down the number of passenger flights. So you can see a direct impact of COVID on trade right there. It's under the radar. People feel disappointed because they can't travel from country A to country B. But as traders, we know that the added impact for the trade community is on the rise in freight rates. Very important negative impact right there. And it is one that impacts on small and medium-sized enterprises as well, particularly at this time because florists, many of the florists are quite small. Just an example of how this works. Also, though, in the global system at the moment, though, we do have some positive news in terms of multilateralism. We've seen the election of the Biden administration to the USA that has a positive impact on multilateralism. A couple of examples, particularly in the context of trade, we've seen support for the World Trade Organization. Biden is throwing their weight, the weight of the United States behind the election of the first African and the first indeed female Director General of the WTO, Madam Ngozi, who's the former Finance Minister of Nigeria, brings long experience to that role, or she will, we hope, when she gets in there. And also, of course, they're looking to unblock the appellate body judge appointments, which has been put the brakes on the dispute settlement body, which is the beating heart of the WTO. So good to see that change there in international politics. Or in national politics in the US having a positive international effect. Also, the Biden administration has pulled back on exiting from the World Health Organization, and that's important at this time because it is a pandemic. We need all countries on board if we're going to be solving the issues that are faced by brought to us by COVID. Also, and so that does bring me to the SDGs. The SDGs, I wanted to just put this on the screen here because for those viewers who've joined us who are not familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals, in terms of multilateralism, this is probably the largest contribution to international development since 2015. So 2015, the 17 goals, and if you could just put them back on the screen there for a moment, please. The 17 goals were unanimously agreed by the United Nations in 2015. Just have them back up there for a second. Thank you. They're grouped as being around people, planet, and prosperity. You can see the goals for the people is like no poverty, zero hunger, focus on health and education in goals 1 to 4. On planet, we can see that the planet goals are more around 13, 14, 15, climate change, life below water, life on land. And when it comes to prosperity, we're looking at 8, 9, 10, 11, decent work, industry innovation and infrastructure, reducing inequalities and sustainable cities and communities. The reason I'm asking you to look at this slide and bear in mind people, planet and prosperity, we'll get down to 16, which is peace, and 17, which is partnerships in a minute. The reason I'm asking you to look at this, because this is actually a blueprint for trade. This, if you think about people, planet, prosperity, what you have right there is people are being the traders, trading goods and services around the world for money. People, planet, prosperity. And what you're also looking at here, given that these are the goals that all of the governments around the world have agreed to, they have targets and indicators. This is the blueprint for trade and development until 2030. So it's a really good time to get on board now. And if you're in a position to make decisions around spending, or if you're an SME, MSME looking to position yourself in the market, I would encourage you to look strongly at the Sustainable Development Goals and think about your position in that context. Thank you very much. You can take that off the screen. So also, just in terms of MSMEs, I have worked for 20 years in this field with small enterprises in particular, trying to connect to global markets. And as I've traveled the world, I've been to more than 70 countries. When I arrive and speak to different groups, whether it's a business council like that in Saudi Arabia, or whether it's a smaller group in a developing country, the first question I'm asked is, can you please help me sell this? And someone will approach me with a this. And typically, because I focused on women's empowerment, it's some kind of cloth garment, you know. And the thing about scarves and the thing about stitched goods is that there's so much of that product in the market. So when people approach me and ask me, can you please find a buyer for this? My immediate response, and this is my response in COVID as well, is don't try to sell what you can make what you can sell. This is a very important to micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. Make what you can sell. And if you have the skills at the moment, if you have the skills to stitch, then you have the skills to make masks. If you have the skills to stitch, you have the skills to start making PPE. If you've got a production line anywhere around that, you've got an opportunity to rejig your production line and look at making what it is that the market is crying out for at the moment. And I think when it comes to MSMEs, and particularly in terms of trying to access global markets, if you can stick to the Sustainable Development Goals, use that as your compass, then you'll be able to, with the support of organisations and institutions like the Business Council that Mr. Abdul Matrif leads, you will be able to, with the help of those organisations, connect to global markets. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Meg. Adam, I wonder if you are still there?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. I think that brings us to the question and answer session.
Correct.
So thank you very much, speakers, ladies and gentlemen. And I think we heard a lot and benefited from various experiences worldwide, right from Australia to Saudi Arabia to the United States. And I think it's time now for the question and answer. And we have a limited time of 20 minutes. So we'll go ahead with the question and answer from now till 7:50. And then we start with our second session with other two distinguished speakers. So I think my colleague, Dr. Raed, will be organizing for those who have questions. Of course, they can either ask through the question and answer button or the chat, or they may ask for permission so that they will be unmuted to go for the questions. Dr. Raed?
Yes, Dr. Dafar Al-Amran, we have it. Dr. Dafar, you can go ahead, please.
Of course, we have with us on board His Excellency, our chairman, Mr. Al-Shu'la, but he can hear us and he's sending his best regards to all of you. He can hear us, but I think it's got some problem with the sound. If that is solved, then he will have his speech. Otherwise, we'll continue with our program. So, Dr. Dafar, please go ahead.
Okay, I have unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Meg is smiling. That means you did hear me. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I want to thank Dr. Ibrahim for his presentation or his intervention. Also for you, Meg. And I'm sure we're going to hear our friends, the rest. Adam, thank you for running the show. I just want, I always, my friend, Dr. Abdul Hassan, who I work with, always knows that I always raise the question when we have something important like this get together. I hope that we are involving SMEs, young entrepreneurs coming to sit and listen to you guys. I don't have in my television, doesn't show me how many people are attending, but I hope there are not young people, not old people like me, but young people attending to listen to you guys, because that is
still young. Your Excellency, you're still young, Ambassador.
Young at heart only.
Yes.
but really, honestly, Adam and my friends all, every time we have a session like this, I always wish, and inshallah, my wish one day will come true, that we need to invite as many young entrepreneurs as possible to learn from experiences like yours. If we don't have them around, then you'll be speaking to me, which thank God at the moment, at this age, I don't need it. And I appreciate what you're saying, but I don't need it as much as they need it. They are the ones who we need to mentor, we need to protect, we need to catch their hands and show them the way. We need to explain to them mechanisms and how they can really handle their life, how they can create their projects, how can they move ahead forward, how can they fail and then succeed and fail and succeed, and eventually they will succeed. It's persistence, how they can be persistent, and how they, because the money, thank God in Bahrain, we have the money. It's not the money, it's really the know-how. I think this is something we need to tap on. We need to make sure that our young people know how, know their way. They know how to look forward, and they always should be optimistic about all what they're doing, because this is the only way for them to survive. And after all, Dr. Abdul Hassan always mentioned that a big chunk of our population are all the young people who they will form around 80 to 90% of our economic growth. So therefore, these are vital for us to take care of and protect, because if we protect them, we're protecting the future of our economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dhafar, Your Excellency, Ambassador. And Dr. Dhafar is always caring for the young entrepreneurs and precise. And we're all looking forward to have active participation from our youngsters and young entrepreneurs. I don't know if there's any comment from the speakers on Dr. Dhafar's intervention. Otherwise,
I'd like to say.
Yes, please.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Dr. Ibrahim. You had something to say?
Yeah, I wanted to say that I agree fully with Dr. Dhafar. It's very important to have the youth involved in everything we do. SME is one important example of that, because they are participating a lot in the SME businesses anyhow. In the Arab world and in our Gulf region, the percentage of youth in our population is very high. And I believe the governments are doing a good job in that. They're getting them involved in almost everything they do. When you go to seminars in Saudi or conferences, you will find a large number of young participating in these forums and events. So I fully agree with Dr. Dhafar, and I agree with him that we need to do more and more of involving the youth in what we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ibrahim. Yes, Meg, any comment? Yes, please.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't agree more with both Dr. Dhafar and Mr. Al-Mutrif and his comments just made. Absolutely, youth are essential to engage in entrepreneurship and in particular in trade. They typically, it's SMEs that are responsible for about 80% of employment in any economy. So it's both gearing SMEs up to hire youth as well. I think this is very important. And I think that there's a comment here also, a question also in the feed here I'm seeing about Meg, how can SMEs make the most advantage of the SDGs? Do you have an example of SMEs that are having success? So I thought I might bring this together, this question of how to engage SMEs in the achievement of the SDGs and youth. So if I think about Kenya, the government of Kenya adopted a policy, a government policy on procurement, on public procurement. It was a policy that targeted sourcing goods and services from companies owned by youth, women, and people with disabilities. And so what that meant was in any economy, whether it's Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, or the USA, or my own country, Australia, the government budget is constitutes one of the largest components of GDP. It's usually between 50 and 30%. So that's a significant spend. So no matter what the objective, if it is, for example, to achieve the SDGs, and there are indicators there on youth, there are indicators there on entrepreneurship, there's indicators there on women's economic empowerment. If you want to achieve those goals, the best budget you have at your disposal is actually the government budget. Corporations as well, for larger corporations, whether they're in oil or bricklaying or whatever, these companies as well can also set targets, much like that, on sourcing goods and services from companies owned by youth or women or people with disabilities. So in that context, you can see that budget, corporate government budget, private public spending can be targeted on this specific, to meet these specific objectives. And indeed, that's been done in Kenya. It's also been done in India. I worked with the government of India and some women entrepreneurs organizations since we started this work in 2010. And then the Ministry of MSMEs, the Ministry of Micro, Small, Medium-Sized Enterprises in India, led by the Development Commissioner then, Madhav Lal, actually have now since adopted a policy of targeting. They have a 25% set aside for SMEs. And within that 25%, they have a set aside for 3% for women. So this is the Ministry of Micro, Small, Medium-Sized Enterprises setting a target to use their spend, their procurement spend, to source from companies owned by, in this case, MSMEs, and as a subset of that, women as well. And you can see this working. Now, I just want to make the link between government policies, the role of the business councils like that Mr. Abdul Majid SMEs, because the thing about running a small business is that you're normally very busy. You're normally really busy. So the government might be adopting policies and you might not know about them. So this is one of the reasons why business councils, those that have ad hoc groups, committees for MSMEs are really, so that they can actually be the conduits of this information back out to the small business community. So there's a strong tie there, and they can equally lobby back to government should there be a need, for example, to extend finance for women-owned SMEs, for example, to have that dialogue, to play that very important role, that dialogue role between MSMEs and the government itself. And we've certainly seen that. I'll finish here. I was asked for a specific example. We've seen that in India with MAWE, which is the Madhya Pradesh Association of Women Entrepreneurs, them grouping women in rural India as a conduit and as a voice to speak with the Ministry of MSMEs and through them to the government itself to have that discussion so that women can actually access opportunities in that context. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Megan and Dr. Ibrahim. And I just wanted to say to His Excellency Ambassador Dhafar Al-Amran that we have our youngest son with us here. This is my son Muhammad, who is helping us and attending also. So one of the young entrepreneurs, hopefully. Thank you.
Pleasure to see you, Muhammad.
Thank you. I think there is on the question answer. Yes, Dr. Muhammad Al-Fazazi.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to this conference. I am fully agree with Dr. Dhafar Al-Amran. Just I want to add something that the new generation or the young people has or have all the know-how that they need for to create the SMEs. The problem is only to give them some assistance and to give them the opportunities. But the know-how, I think that they are very well connected to all the world and that they have everything, but they need to be some assistance, maybe some opportunities to experience their challenges.
الآن أونلاين ما أقدر أتكلم. Sorry. Okay, I will read it. Thank you. Sorry, I got interrupted by another call. Okay, so Dr. Muhammad, are you done with your comment?
Yes, it was done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think that was one of the participants who's the former UN representative in Bahrain. And he said that I'm online, I can hear, but I cannot participate. So probably maybe Dr. Raed can unmute him, Dr. Faisal Abdul Qadir. who is the former UN representative in Bahrain. And till he is given the permission, let me take this question, I think, from Mr. Farid Badr, actually, as a comment.
Yes. No, may I just say something? Thank you very much,
please,
Dr. Abdel Hassan. And thank you, distinguished guests and speakers, panelists, and wishes to all of you. With regards to, in continuation, what has been said by Dr. Dhafer, you see, there is a difference between SMEs and entrepreneurs, a startup. We call them startups, right? And I'm much involved in with the startups, empowering them. But I think SMEs been neglected. You see, the startups these days are like it's like a fashion that people invest into startups very easily. There is a big appetite in investing in startups, but when it comes to SMEs, nobody is interested. I mean, from my gathering is not many are interested in SMEs. Although I believe SMEs they've reached a level whereby they have revenue, they are growing. It's just that sometimes situations, the crisis make them, slow down. On the other side is the mindset also of SMEs and the startups. So startups, they give up equity and the investors, they are like that. On the other side, SMEs mindset, they don't want to give up any of their equity. My question to you, if anybody can comment on this, how can we, what I'm saying, is this right, what I'm saying or not? And if right, what can we do about that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Badr. I think this is a very crucial question, and I'm sure our colleagues, distinguished speakers, will have a lot to say, but within the time limit, I think we can have only 5 minutes for such a question, or even less, 4 minutes, let's say 2 minutes each before we go to our next session, and then we can always have a question and answer at the end as well. Yes, please.
Mm-hmm. I might just jump in and just use my 2 minutes very quickly to say that, yes, you're right, Dr. Badr. There's a spectrum there from a startup to becoming a fully fledged SME, and so many companies don't make it for a variety of reasons. It isn't just about the share of equity. It often has to do with a lack of mentorship and the lack of support. So I think there are many countries around the world that have incubators which support startups, yet there's that fall off point. And again, sometimes it's because companies are not actually making what they can sell. I think that's, again, very important. Can't reiterate that point enough, to do your market analysis and make sure you're making what you can sell. And then in terms of the support that you need, it's not only financial, to engage with business councils like we have here from Mr. Abdul Matrif, and also to engage in conferences, international conferences. Christine Big runs the WIN conference. I know she's associated with your organization. I think there's opportunities there to participate in conferences like that, to meet potential buyers and potential mentors as well. The role of mentorship for a startup is also often underplayed. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Yes, Dr. Ibrahim.
Yes, I cannot agree more with Dr. Badr. It's very true. What he said is very true. We should confess the fact that SMEs have been, I wouldn't say neglected, but they weren't given the attention they needed for some time in at least I would say the GCC region. But thank God the SMEs are now getting the support they actually deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim and Meg. And with that, I think we come to the end of our first session. where we had two of our distinguished speakers. And now we switch off to the second session, where we have another two of our distinguished speakers, Mr. Dean Van Leeuwen. Excuse my pronunciation, Mr. Leeuwen, from UK, and he's the CEO of Tomorrow Today Consultancy at London. And our other distinguished speaker is Dr. Mohammed Al-Fizazi from Morocco, who is the CEO of the Middle East and Africa at Cambridge Business Consultancy at Casablanca. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome both of our distinguished speakers for the second session, and every one of them is to have 10 minutes for his speech, after which we will switch off to the question and answer for our seminar tonight. So without any further ado, please help me to welcome Mr. Dean Van Leeuwen.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be joining you here today, and thank you so much for inviting me to attend and speak at this fantastic event. What I'd just like to say is the slides that I will be talking to you about are actually here at the background. So if you'd like to just hover your mouse over my picture, you'll see three little dots. Click on that and click on the pin, so you can pin me, and then you'll be able to have the full screen and pick up the slides that I'll talk to you about. And we will also make these slides available to you. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how SMEs and startups can navigate through what we are seeing as a perfect storm. Yes, there are some huge challenges, but there are also massive opportunities. And if I was, well, I am, I run a consultancy in London. I'm talking to you from snowy London. It's very cold here at the moment. Actually, the opportunities for SMEs are huge. Lots and lots of disruption, but disruption is good for SMEs because you're more agile, you can adapt and change and chase the great opportunities, as Meg was saying. Go for what people are buying, focus on what they are buying. You can make those adaptations very quickly. So what I do with my team tomorrow today is this: we are futurists, and we look at the impact of big disruptive forces and how they are changing the world. But we are not futurists who like to sit here and predict what's going to happen. We work with SMEs and our clients to help predict the future. We believe that the best way to predict the future is to create it. That's the powerful thing that we need to do. The future doesn't just happen. People create the future. SMEs create the future. Now, the future is going to be disruptive. We have been talking about pandemics disrupting our businesses and industries. I've been talking about this for over 12 years. And at the end of last year, we actually said that our research is showing that this decade, in 2020s, this decade will be a decade of disruption. And the reason we are saying that is that it's not just COVID. There are many forces that are coming together. They are colliding. And these forces are actually being amplified and sped up by COVID. And we need to not just focus on the disruption that is in front of us, but also just think about the disruptions that are happening around. There's seven powerful forces that we can see that are having a huge impact, from global warming to geopolitics to aging populations, inequality, AI, automation, robotics, and populism. All of these forces are coming together. They're colliding with this hurricane amplifying pandemic. And there's a real worry that we have that most organizations are just going to try and weather the storm rather than be proactive. They're going to say, well, what got us here will get us there. We will just batten down the hatches. We will just we'll work harder. Unfortunately, those organizations may never be seen again. The organizations that will excel during the 2020s will reimagine how things are being done, because we are entering this decade where things are going to change absolutely dramatically. And you may be skeptical. You may think, well, you know, what's really going to change over 10 years? And I want to take you back to 1903. This is New York. And what you can see here in this picture are horses and carts. But there's one vehicle, an automotive car, amongst all of these horses and cars, which tells us about the disruption that's going to come. And 9 years later, just 9 years later, this is New York. Sometimes not a single horse and cart, sometimes the world changes like that. And we are living during one of these sharp, transformative periods in history. They happen about every 150 years when forces of progress collide, and the world that emerges is never the same again. Now, here's the thing about these periods. I can't tell you what the future is going to look like. There aren't any roadmaps. You have to be explorers. You have to be adventurers, going out there, exploring these new frontiers, you know, the exciting frontiers in health, science, engineering, education, even space travel. You know, not since the last age of discovery have so many new frontiers opened up. And we need to think of ourselves as explorers, as adventurers. And this is what I say, SMEs have a huge, huge advantage here over the bigger corporations, because you, by nature, are explorers. You are curious about the world around you. You want to go out there and make a difference. And these are the traits, great skills of explorer leaders. So to navigate during this decade of disruption, to make the most out of this period, you want to focus on building a culture of exploration in your organization, in your business. And one of the things that we see that explorers do is that they embark on meaningful quests. They identify big, meaningful problems. So what Meg was talking about, the SDGs, they focus in on these big societal problems and they deliver solutions for them. And personally, from our research, we're showing we're not surprised that Elon Musk is now the world's wealthiest individual. Don't forget that Elon Musk, like you, started off life as an SME, as a startup. You know, back here. You know, Elon Musk is, you know, let me give you an example of why we say Elon Musk is such an amazing explorer leader. So 11 years ago, it's coming on 12 years ago now, he actually announced to the world what his strategy was, his purpose, his strategy, and he told the world about it. He blogged it, he tweeted it, he told everyone about it. And you have to imagine, you know, why would you tell your competitors about your strategic master plan? And the reality is that because Elon Musk's secret ingredient, what makes him and Tesla so successful, is not his strategy, it's his quests. So when he started Tesla, he went to his engineer team and he said to them, build me an electric car that will beat a Ferrari from a standing start. Now imagine 10 years ago, electric cars were like milk carts. The idea that we could do this would be crazy, but they did it. And Elon Musk uses quests after quest, you know, the quest for self-driving automated cars, the quest for an electric truck, the quest for the world's largest battery factory, and even the quest to go to Mars. And we've explored hundreds of leaders who have embarked on really meaningful quests. And we've identified that there's a framework, there's a model. We've decoded what it is that they are doing. And we've called it the Golden Compass. Because what every great leader on a quest is doing is they have a very clear destination. Think about JFK's quest to go to the moon. You know what you're tracking towards. These quests are challenging. And because they are challenging, they are trying to do things that often haven't even been achieved before. They are immensely powerful. The results are hugely powerful. Yeah, and because they are challenging, because they are powerful, they inspire people to get behind you, to be motivated and to deliver against these quests that you embark on. So here are 3 steps that you can do as an organization, as an SME. Explore what forces will disrupt your industry, your country, your market. Examine what's the future. Ask yourself the question, what is the future you want to create for your stakeholders? And then build a culture of exploration, a culture of innovation, and venture out and achieve remarkable, amazing things. You know, the 2020s has the potential to be a golden age. You know, COVID is offering us a rare opportunity, a moment to build back a better future for all stakeholders. But I think here's the rub. The greatest risk of this century is that we fall short. We fail to think big enough to make this century great for everyone. And this is why I believe that it will be the SMEs of the future who will pull the world through this challenging time with the solutions, with the creativity and the innovation. You know, we can turn this decade of disruption into a decade of action and impact, but it's up to SMEs like you to make this happen. There's a great African proverb that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. This is going to take the many big challenges in the world. It is going to take partnerships and collaboration, but SMEs are well positioned to take advantage of the many great opportunities that we will see during this decade. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sardine. I think this is really great and a lot of information to digest, and think we'll have a lot to discuss later on at the question and answer session out of your fabulous ideas that you have explained and the 3 steps to success for the SMEs. Now, I very much like the pictures showing behind you, especially the first one, navigating the perfect storm, and also the others. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sure our audience have lots of questions. I can see some questions popping up, but we'll leave it all after our distinguished speaker, Dr. Mohammed Al-Fizazi from Morocco, with his speech, and then we'll turn off to the discussion session after the speech. So thank you very much, Mr. Dean, and we switch off to Dr. Al-Fizazi from Morocco.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I will speak about, we'll talk about African SMEs for the session, to give you some numbers, to share with you some numbers about Africa, about challenges that facing SMEs in Africa, in African countries especially. As you know, Africa currently population is around 1.2 billion people, which is mean 20% of the of population, of worldwide population, and but only 3% of GDP, of global GDP. In Africa, we have also more than 4,000 companies that earns annual revenue more than $1 billion. That means that we have much more opportunities in Africa for SMEs. We have also, we can see, we have some, we expect that production or consumption in Africa will bring up more than 7 trillion by 2030, up to 4 trillion in coming from 4 trillion in 2015. That means that in Africa we have a lot of opportunities, and the climate for business is improving from year to year, but we still have some challenges to face. One of them is the intra-African trade, which is only 2%, and this is very, very small number. That means we have only 2% intra-trade between African countries, which is delicate as number. The economic growth was impacted by COVID, and we estimate that we will do something like -2 or -5 this year with the impact of COVID. This leads to the next point, that all this impact for 2020, but we cannot negligate. We cannot negligate that also have problems before COVID still and will remain with us if we don't challenge the government and the SMEs to give the best solution to this kind of problems. Most of them, as you know, that in Africa we have something like 70% is informal business, or especially the micro enterprise are most of them informal, 70%, and this is a huge number that we should to face. We should to have some solution for this kind of situation. The private sector or the startups are something which is new for Africa, and they have a lot of difficulties, especially tax difficulties, are also legal or finance, because lack of credit facilities is one of the major problem in Africa for the SMEs. We have other problems also for SMEs in Africa. Most of SMEs are limited by technical progress and low value of fixed assets. That means that we don't have this access to technology, and we are behind other SMEs in other parts of this world. And this is this is a big problem for SMEs in Africa as well. SMEs in Africa also struggle against business integration because of the poor infrastructure, because of poverty also, because of this lack of some local finance or tax system, which is in Africa we pay the higher rate of tax. In some countries, some countries, if I give some examples, it can be 60% as a rate of tax in some countries, which not help the SMEs to develop themselves and to resolve their problems. Also, we can see that we have much more opportunities, of course, but first, our government have a lot of to do. First thing is to the credit facilities should be accessible for all the SMEs and for all people who want to create their SMEs. They have to simplify the tax system and the customs procedure. This is must to develop SMEs in Africa. They have to develop also much more the infrastructure between countries, especially in this time when we have this. They have also to encourage the business climate, because in many countries still not the climate for business climate still not encouraged. But in other parts, the SMEs have to do a lot as well. SMEs can be the growing engine of innovation. Innovation is something which need in Africa, and I think the young people have, for the time being, the know-how, and they should work for innovation to face all this problem of infrastructure, of customs duty, etc., etc. They can move also into the other markets, and with the connection now, they can move to the other markets in Europe and in USA and in Asia, and not only still in Africa, because the connection between African countries for the time being is not easy. They should also they need to be main driver of growth in the respective part of the world, and not only the government have this responsibility, but also the SME should to help government to resolve this problem of growth, and they should to be a part of this growth in this part of the world. So this is for me the opportunities that the government or the SME should work on. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed Al-Fizazi, for your great, I think, ideas and remarks that you have made. A lot again to digest, and a lot of information, figures, and data about I would call the green continent, Africa, and I think it's a treasure of opportunities for SMEs yet to be explored. I think we'll open the floor for discussion, and we have 15 to 20 minutes, for question and answer and discussion, because we want it to be a two-way communication. So I think we start with the question from His Excellency Dr. Faisal Abdelkader, and he says, the former UN rep in Bahrain, and he says the question is to Mr. Dean from UK. While the world economy is struggling with the impact of COVID, etc., there appears something strange happening in stock exchange with small investors and who claim to be SNE. I don't know whether he meant SME or SNE. I think he meant SME, a small and medium enterprise, who are a group who, please bear with me, it's a long comment or question, who are a group who receive easy money to support them for COVID, or coupled with the many fora for business exchange, which is easy and free to access. Another collision factor, the many electronic forum for exchanges. According to statistics, there are 8 million small investors now, challenging the biggest stock exchange in Wall Street, and among the famous name of which is called Robinhood. As he stated, this is a question to Mr. Dean from UK. I hope you get it,
yeah.
Dean.
No, thank you. Thank you. It's a great question. Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. So what we're seeing, that what's happening here is very much representative of the types of disruptive forces that we are going to experience in the 2020s. And it's because the world is changing so dramatically that a group of small investors can take on the big boys at Wall Street. Now, to understand, I think, the context of what is happening, we can turn to a framework or a model that we use at Tomorrow Today. And the framework we call the tides of change. And tides of change looks at 5 disruptive forces that are dramatically shifting and changing the world. And tides is an acronym. It stands for technology, institutional change, demographics, environment, and social values. And these 5 forces, there are many other disruptive forces, but these are 5 key ones, are colliding at the moment and ending up in these situations like you're referring to here with Robinhood. And I think the company that really brought it to the fore that was being invested was called GameStop. And what's happening here is that you can see that technology is changing dramatically. Just a few years ago, this kind of trading would never have been possible. But because of the Robinhood app, which brings together many small investors, democratizes the investment market, and that's what Robinhood is there for. Well, that's their quest, that's what they're trying to achieve, to democratize investing and allow the small person to actually get in on what Wall Street is doing and benefit from it. And you combine that with another technology of social media and Reddit, where there are groups of small investors getting together and collaborating and actively targeting big investment firms. You also add this to the disruptive force of social values. There is a growing sense in the world that the elites their time is up. The elites have got it wrong, and it's time for things to change. And this sense is leading to, we're seeing the rise of populism, we're seeing the rise of many angry people who feel that they've been left behind by globalization. And using Robinhood and Reddit and so on, these are small investors, small SMEs that are using the power of social, power of technology to really act out as growing the shifting values. And then we take institutional change. Now, institutional changes looks at the organizations, the structures, the bodies that determine the rules for success and failure. And these are changing dramatically around the world. You can go from country to country, to industry, and you will find deep structural change happening. And the fact that a group of small, medium entrepreneurs who are banding together and taking on big investment firms and beating them at their own game is a great example of the institutional change and disruption that we are seeing at the moment. So we're living in this fascinating time where examples like this are going to become more and more prevalent. We are going to see, companies like Robinhood, which is, it's a small and medium-sized SME, who are able to, because of technology, to fundamentally disrupt and change the way the world works. And that's the exciting thing, I think, for SMEs, is that you have the opportunity to reimagine the way that things are happening, where that things are done, the orthodoxies of industries, and disrupt them, change them, rewrite the rules. And that's why this is going to be an immensely interesting decade. And if you look back over history, you'll see these sharp periods of transition. It's the SMEs that come out in the front. Many great new businesses were started during periods of sharp transition. So it's an exciting time. And so Dr. Mohammed, thank you very much for the question. It's a great example of how small businesses can disrupt on a large scale.
And I totally agree with that as well, Dean and Dr. Mohammed, because as my colleague Farid just mentioned, that we should engrave innovation in our core business in order to sustain, be nimble and agile. We need different education system. I totally agree with all of you, and I think that what makes the difference between an entrepreneur and a normal SME owner. And that's why it's our motto in our SME society and the UNISMO is that how we can shift or transfer, help the SME owner to transfer from being an owner, an SME owner, to an entrepreneur full of innovation and creativity. And I believe that that is the real added value to the person himself, to the entrepreneur, and to the economy, and to the worldwide. And again, I totally agree with Farid. He just mentioned, let me read this for you, I think, in his comment, another comment, and then I'll go to the other question of Dr. Mohammed, Dr. Faisal. And Farid was saying, Farid Badr, quoting Elon Musk, that he bought Bitcoin and he made a huge profit in 1 month, more than selling cars in 10 years. And this is the change that's happening. And probably, I don't know, from your point of view, is it innovation here? Is it leading the change? Is it exploring? As Dean mentioned, the 3 steps to success: explore, examine, embark. And in fact, in a way of shifting the crisis, transferring the crisis into opportunity. And that's what the real entrepreneur is all about. Entrepreneurship is all about shifting and capitalizing on a problem. In fact, that all people are looking for as a problem, but the entrepreneurs look as a solution. They focus on solutions for such problems. And with that, under that lies the opportunities. So any comment on this before we go to the other question of Dr. Faisal. Muhammad.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Innovation is absolutely key. And we see innovation as a key component of being an explorer leader. One of the key traits of explorer leaders are they are immensely curious about the world around them. And curiosity leads to innovation. And I think there's a slight misconception around what innovation is. And innovation isn't necessarily about coming up with a great idea or a great solution. You can come up with many great ideas. My dog comes up with at least 5 great ideas before it even has breakfast. But innovation is about finding the right problems to solve. Let me just show you this slide here. It's a lovely quote. The most innovative companies are not better at solving problems. They are better at finding the right problems to solve. And I think that's what you should be focusing on as SMEs. What are the right problems that you need to be solving? As the world is changing around us, there are many new problems. And as technology develops, there are many problems that we have which we haven't been able to find solutions for. And many of these problems are like furniture in our rooms. We are so used to them, we don't even think that we need to find solutions. But the great SMEs will go out there and they'll discover a really meaningful problem, and that's where, so it's find the meaningful problem rather than the solution. The solutions will come, but find the problems that are worth solving.
Yes, thank you, Dean. Dr. Muhammad, any comment on that, on innovation and entrepreneurship and SMEs?
Yes, I think success in life generally is linked to innovation. Innovation, as we confirm, is something which is linked also to the services, to the customer's needs. And I am totally agree with Dean Van Leeuwen that find the problem is a bigger part of innovation, and it can be the focus for the new generation is not only to give solution for some problems, but to find the right problems for customers, and of course to innovate something for the customers and to find the problem to resolve.
Thank you very much. That takes me to the comment, another comment or question. He says, Dr. Faisal Muhammad, another comment or question to all panelists as regard women empowerment in general and in Bahrain as it relates to international trade, while Bahrain has a few women in business. I think we have so many women in business, but anyway, that's Dr. Muhammad comment. Dr. Faisal, sorry. But not so many women entrepreneurs or SMEs in the international trade. Also, he says, also women in Bahrain, I believe, in accessing public tenders. Bahrain women makers and parliamentary and need to devise an advocacy strategy to enhance the legal and policy framework so as to enhance the contributions, involvement of women S&M enterprise, small and medium enterprise. Okay, so any comment from panelists? All panelists. He said to all panelists, which means not only the second session, but also the entire seminar. So this is an open for all the 4 speakers, panelists. Any comment on that?
If I can just add
yes, Dr. Ibrahim.
A statement that empowering women is something that's been taken very seriously in the region for some time now, and all the GCC countries, I'm not going to go out of the GCC countries, are doing a lot of work in that area, and you can see women now in many categories of employment that we didn't have them in the past at all. I mean, if you go back to 10 years or a little bit more, you will find ladies involved in teaching and nursing and no more. But now when you come to the Gulf region, you find ladies involved in many areas than teaching and medicine and nursing. You have heard about ladies taking big posts, high posts in the governments. Saudi Arabia has been doing very well in that area. As a matter of fact, today one lady became in charge in one of the media establishments in Saudi. This is just in the news today. So we're taking that very serious, and we're doing a good job at it, to be honest with you. And you will be seeing more in the days to come and in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, I always say that women, they make 50%, if not more, of the total population. And I think if they are well represented in business and empowered, as mentioned earlier, I think they can make amazement and lots of achievement. And I must say that in Bahrain, the women are shoulder to shoulder with the men. I mean, in Bahrain, we really don't have that much of difference. The women, we have women SMEs, we have women entrepreneurs, and we have businesswomen societies, not only one. In fact, yesterday we had the Bahrain Businesswomen Society elections, a new board. We have the Bahrain Business Owners Club, and so on. I mean, there's the Bahrain Entrepreneurs Organization that's also led by women, and so many NGOs and the High Council of Supreme Council of Women. So in Bahrain, the women, they are really taking their role, and they are empowered. Maybe we need more, not only for the women, but for the SMEs and the entrepreneurs, the young entrepreneurs in specific, whether men or women, male or female. Yes, thank you, Dr. Ibrahim. Any other comment for women empowerment? Yeah.
Yes, I think. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go right ahead, please.
Thank you. I think that this point is valid for over the world, because if we take the first 100 companies or startups in the world, we will find that all leaders are men. I don't know any exception for that. I think it's linked to the stress, to maybe to the risk. To take a risk maybe is a psychological problem, and this is nothing to do with the empower women. But I think it's behind every man is we have women, and she are everywhere. But with business, I think they don't like to take a risk maybe, or to be on stress situation. Because if we take statistic over the world at high level, we will find that most companies is driven by men. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Although I heard in the news a few days ago that there was the Forbes, I think the Forbes list powerful female entrepreneurs or business women, and I think 3 out of the 50 were from Bahrain. 3 businesswomen on the list were from Bahrain. So anyway, yes, Meg, I think you have a lot to say on this.
I have 1 or 2 things to add, yes.
Please.
because women tend to be, in some countries, tend to be risk averse, when they do actually start a business, the success rates are higher than their male counterparts. So when you do have a woman SME owner, then I think what you really need to do is look at the access aspect of that, in particular, access to opportunities. And in as much as we can say behind every successful man, there's a woman, I think the gentlemen on this panel might like to consider that behind the successful women, there could be men such as yourselves. I'd like to actually acknowledge the work that, the very good work that Bahrain has done. Not only do you have an SME development board that has, as part of that, Export Bahrain. Recently, Export Bahrain entered into an agreement with the Supreme Council of Women to actually foster women's entrepreneurship in Bahrain. Now, there's various ways you can do that. I touched on the policy dimension before, how you can create opportunities for SME owners, men or women, through procurement, government and corporate procurement. But also considering the wisdom and the experience on the panel, and the positions that you hold, what you could consider would be, for example, a woman-to-woman, women-owned trade mission. Now, in the past, these have proven very successful, and this is something you could foster in the GCC countries, even between Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, would be a woman-to-woman, women business owner trade mission. Quite often when trade delegations are put together, the Ministry of Trade chooses the leaders of the top businesses, and then you end up, in your region, you end up with a rather large number of representatives of oil companies, natural gas, that kind of thing. And I think at this point in time, Mr. Van Leeuwen mentioned before, it's an opportunity to look at change. We do need to look at export diversification, and I think many of the countries in the Gulf are very much aware of that. Not only do we need to look at diversification in exports, we need to look at a diversification of those who are leading those companies. And so there's a really excellent opportunity here to, and I would propose as an outcome of this meeting, a woman-only trade mission between, for example, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. The ground is laid there with the Supreme Council for Women and Export Bahrain. And of course, we have a representative, a leader of the Business Council of Saudi Arabia on the call. It's food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Meg. Yes, Dean, any comment on this topic? I think before we come to an end of our event tonight or today.
I think it's a great conversation, and I honestly believe that this age that we are in, this new age of discovery, the fourth industrial revolution, whatever you want to call it, I actually believe that we will see this as the age of the woman, the age of the woman leader, the age of the woman entrepreneur. They are better suited for the kind of work and the values and the traits of feminine leadership are well suited for success. Let me share with you this one slide. This is research that we've done, which shows there are 7 traits of explorer organization, explorer leaders, and they are curiosity, empathy, creativity, intuition, inspiration, collaboration, resilience. Now, when you look at this list of traits or values, what do you think? Does anything jump out to you?
Curiosity, empathy, creativity. Is it entrepreneurship?
Dr. Abdel Hassan.
Ahlan, Dr. Dhafar.
I have just a final comment, if I may, anytime you want.
Yes, I think you will be next after we are done with Mr. Dean, because he's just throwing a very... And then
the profile of a woman.
Sorry, Meg.
When I hear about women, I have to defend women, so I have something to talk about.
Let me finish it off in this way and say that these are traits which women just find natural. Empathy, curiosity, creativity, collaboration. My wife is an incredibly successful businesswoman, and I see her every day living out these kind of traits, these values.
You can say
the way in which women collaborate.
I'm sure you can say other than that.
So let me sort of finish off. So I think this decade, this new age of exploration we are in, this will be the age of the woman leader.
Okay.
Very good. I think that's very valid and very important, the age of women leaders. And I'm sure the Meg and all businesswomen will feel really glad to hear such, I would say, exploration or intuition or prediction, or it's a fact, you know, that you are living.
Prediction is good, policy is better.
Okay, so with that, I think we get to the last comment or intervene from His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Dhafar Al-Amran.
Can you hear me, Meg? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can see you as well, sir.
You can see me? Oh, excellent.
Yes,
but I am not well prepared. I usually, like Dr. Brahim, wearing my Arabic clothes, you know, but sorry, guys. I'm at home with Corona, stuck with Corona, so you can excuse me if you don't mind. I just want to say one thing. I am surprised, honestly, with Dr. Faisal talking about empowerment of women. Women empowerment in Bahrain, believe it or not, it's at its peak now. It's really headed at its peak. Like Meg has mentioned, thanks to the High Council for Women, they have done a tremendous job, excellent job. I know that Saudi Arabia has went straight forward to take care of women. The whole area are really caring about women. I want to tell you an example. My father became the first Minister of Education because of a non-educated woman, my grandmother, who came from Oman and took care of him. Women are leaders here in this part of the world, but people, I have my sister was the first Undersecretary of Ministry of Education of Information. I have my mother, the first social worker in Bahrain. We have a lot of ambassadors, women all over, spread all over the world. We have the head of parliament is a woman. We have, in Bahrain, wherever you look around, like Dr. Abdul Hassan has mentioned, Terry, that women are leaders. They are moving forward. They are competing. They have started education with men with boys from the beginning. It's not. We're talking about the 1919, not something recent. So, and they are always the best in their classes. They always even compete with boys, and they get better grades than boys. They are pushing themselves forward, and our society, the environment is welcoming this to them. So they are really, it's up to them. They are free, and nobody is really hitting them on the head. Nobody is forcing them to stay where they are. They can excel whenever they want. This is the point regarding women. Regarding the other thing that Dr. Hassan Faisal has mentioned, I don't understand about Robin Hood and all that stuff, but I can tell you one thing. I understand. It's really important that even our entrepreneur, we educate them about ethics. If we don't educate them about the ethics, they will start killing each other. We do not want entrepreneurs to kill each other. We do not want entrepreneurs to climb over others. You know, we want them to, in a healthy way, in a scientific way, in an educated way, pave their way through and make a better life for themselves, and we will support them. Therefore, our generation, our young generation, needs to be educated well and build this ethical concept in their mind so that they don't hurt each other. Actually, they should work together and instead of competing, they should complement each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dhafar. And let me quote here our colleague, Dr. Lulu Al-Mutlaq, who is one of the entrepreneurs and businesswomen, leading businesswomen in Bahrain, and a board member of our UNISMO and Bahrain SME Society as well. And she says that women in Bahrain has entered all types of businesses We have been empowered by our government and proud to see women in high positions. They exceed the number of men entrepreneurs. Quoted, women in Bahrain are not empowered only, but advanced high in our community. He says, I believe what keeps SMEs going is the entrepreneur or owner's passion of what they make or agree to sell. In this hard time, most SMEs look for a new way of doing business. So innovation and creativity is the key, and going toward digitalization is the solution. And what they after in the COVID and post-COVID time. Thank you, Dr. Lulwa. And last but not least, our board member as well, and deputy chairman of the SME Society, Engineer Abdulrahim Faghro, say, thank you for a question, Ms. Meg. In Bahrain, we have Tamkeen, which is a semi-government institution that is supporting SMEs. And this support is in coordination or correlation with the SDGs that you talked about, quality education for SMEs. And Meg says, I think we'll end up with this because I can see lots of comments popping up. Tamkeen is an important institution giving the disproportionately higher rates of unemployment among women, according to Meg. Supporting the growth of women-owned enterprises is important, totally agree, as women business owners tend to employ more women. So think with that. Fabulous ideas. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I think the discussion can go longer and longer. It's just the time, and I feel sorry, Meg, again, my apology that it is now what, it's almost 3 or 4 a.m. in Australia, and we are keeping you awake, still active. So thank you very much again and again, Meg, Dr. Ibrahim, Dr. Muhammad, Mr. Dean, all our distinguished speakers and fabulous audience for all your comments, and I think very comprehensive. And I'm sure that the journalists who are on board with us, they will take a lot of your ideas, what you have just mentioned, and would come in the newspapers tomorrow or day after, and that would be really a real added value. At the end of this session, I'd like to thank you all and thank my colleague, Mr. Adam, the chair of the Conferences and Seminars Committee at the United International SMEs Organizations, UNISMO, our chairman, His Excellency Mr. Al-Shu'la, and all supported this third international seminar of the UNISMO, and we're looking forward to see you all as well at our next international seminar of the UNISMO, which would be broadcasted from Australia, from Brisbane, I believe, in Australia. So the timing would be much more appropriate for you, Meg. And that would be on Wednesday, 10th of March, so 4 weeks from now. Please keep an eye, and we'll let you know as what is the exact timing is going to be, because we normally do it one for the West Globe, which is like this one, and another one which is more convenient for the East Globe. So the next one is going to be for the East Globe, and I'm sure the timing would be much more better for the East Globe. Thank you very much. With you, I've been Abdul Hassan Al-Dairi, the chairman of the Bahrain SME Society and the general coordinator of the UNISMO. Thank you very much. And for those who have a morning, have a good day. Those who are in afternoon, a nice afternoon, hopefully sunny. And those who are in the evening about to sleep, good night, sweet dreams, and look forward to see you next soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Ma'a salama. Namaste. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye bye.